the Rant Network with Stuart Brisgel and David Solomon. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. You think about it, we rant about it. Listen to us live on Facebook.
Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had yourselves a wonderful weekend, a good weekend, a safe weekend, a fun weekend. And I got to tell you, since Friday, Stuart and I, when we started ranting about the Biden administration's decision to go out and force employers with respect to, going out and getting vaccinated if you have more than 100 employees and all this forced stuff, it's incredible over the weekend between the comments we got and the articles that have been popping up about the pros and the cons, the good, the bad, and whatever, but more so, Stuart, the extraordinary inconsistency, how the federal government, the Biden administration, has decided that only one group of people should be impacted: the employers, the people paying all the taxes, the people who are helping stir the economy. Once again, we saw with Obamacare, keep more on the employer. And now, with this, forced vaccinations, heap more costs on the employer. But Stuart, you got a different way of looking at this and a different approach in which the feds should be reflecting on. Stuart, what say you?
I've been, first of all, vaccinated properly with Pfizer back in February of this past year and are booked on Friday to get my booster shot. Even though that there are now a few different manufacturers that have a pill, kind of like the morning after pill, which is kind of like the way I feel about this whole COVID 19, which is now COVID 21 turning into COVID 22. But that's not the problem. And I believe David is also properly vaccinated. So we're talking to you, and our opinion is that vaccination is a good thing. There are some stories out there of some bad things that have happened to people, but I think more people have died taking birth control than have died taking the COVID vaccination. And if it reduces the amount of time you spend in a hospital, if you make it in a hospital, I think it's not a bad risk that you should take it. But again, it's not medical advice, not personal advice, but it's your personal choice. Where lies the problem? And that is being exacerbated week after week by this administration. The Biden came out in September that all federal employees had to be vaccinated. Great. Federal employees, poorly defined, is it contractors, not contractors, any company that receives money that technically become federal employees. How about the congressmen and senators and all of their aides that work in, whether Republican or Democrat, whether you're, conservative or a progressive? But you know what? If you're an illegal immigrant, if you're on welfare, if you're on unemployment, if you're on food stamps, if you're just nobody on the street receiving any type of government aid, there's no mandate for you. Let me understand this. There's a rule for me, but not for thee. And here it is now exacerbated full force. OSHA, another branch of the government like the IRS that went after all Tea Party companies and members just a few short years ago, which everyone has forgotten about, where the DOJ became weaponized with some moron trying to have teachers and school boards go after parents for wanting to control their children's education. The government is now telling you you're a second class citizen. We're going to tell you, the employer, I'm going to fine you between $17,000 and $700,000. But if you're unemployed, on welfare, you are not the ones that are going to have to get mandated to get the jab. So where is this rule?
Well,
Why
hold
is
on,
this rule so
but
important?
Stuart,
Yeah.
let's touch on what you just said here for just a second. And that's an interesting point. What you're saying here, bottom line is, if you're getting money from the government,
Yep.
whether it's federal or state, well, let's keep it federal.
Yes.
You
Only
should be
federal.
forced to get a jab. Now, but let me ask this question though. So if tomorrow morning I'm unemployed and I want to go get a job working at, I don't know, United Airlines or the federal government, am I going to be refused? Am I going to be refused? Because
No,
the government has
I
said,
think
the
I think
government
that
has said,
all checks. I think anyone receiving any federal grant, government check of any kind, if they want to make this mandate federal law, as they just did, Everyone needs 30 days to present their jab, or you don't get paid.
But hold
If
on, but
they
let me
want
put
to
the
have
devil's
people off for COVID, they need to get the jab.
But Stuart, the argument is going to be, and here's the crazy part, is that the feds said, oh, but if you don't want to get the jab, then you need to test every single week.
Yep,
So
it should be
if
the
that's
same for those people as well. But
okay,
it's
so the
that's
question
that.
is who's paying for the tests?
Hey, I guess the federal government is. That's
Look,
who's supposed to pay for it. The federal government is. They're covered by Medicaid.
no,
Medicaid covers it.
look,
In the
what my
United
my
States,
problem,
Medicaid covers it.
my issue, and John, I get your point here. I'm not. The problem I have where I'm frustrated is you're forcing 1/3 of the population to do something, and the other 2/3, who guess what, the Democrats want to have dependent on them, they don't have to do anything.
Right.
And I think Stuart's point is great and it's very valid here. It's like, no, 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 no. You get money, you get a dime from the federal government, you're obligated. Okay,
Yes.
now small businesses are going to say under like 20, 30 people, hey, it's not fair. Okay, but you can't tell, I know that these COVID things are free. So there's no cost associated with going to get a jab. The cost is going to be on the employer. The cost is going to be on too many, the government has to be the one. If they're going to force companies to do this only, then the government should subsidize it. I'm getting a little tired of this. But if you don't, then if you're going to do it that way, then force, like you said, unemployed, welfare people. Come on, folks, let's get going here.
Do you know why
Either
the Biden
everybody or
administration
nobody.
never bothered to put that out there and never bothered to do it? Because their base is the majority of the population who hasn't had the jab. And if they go and say, you've got to now have the jab, they're now going to disenfranchise what little of the base they have left. I'm sorry, David, I'm not for a mandatory jab. But if the government's going to force it down the throat of every man, woman, and child in this country, then we need to force these people as well. And they're the ones that need to do it.
But that's the thing, is like we're saying forcing here. And again,
It is forcing.
This is not forcing. Actually, it's called coercion. And I'm getting the federal government is coercing because you know what? They're trying to do, once again, their responsibility. And remember when Biden was going to be elected, what he ran on, what he told everybody, what he was going to force the federal government to do, he's done none of it. He's riding the coattails of the previous administration. He's riding the coattails of a vaccine program that would have gone regardless of who was in power. And now he's saying, oh, wait a minute, we're not vaxxed enough. So let's go ahead and make all these forced changes. I want to tell you something, Stuart. I watched football on Sunday. And you want to know something? Nobody's wearing a mask, or almost no one's wearing a mask at a football game. I don't care if it's a college game with 100,000 people or 80,000 at a professional football game or at a hockey game or at a basketball game. I'm getting tired here of the bullshit. The hypocrisy is, okay.
Or a riot.
Sorry?
Or a good riot.
Listen, it's hypocrisy, okay? Because
exactly.
You can't have systems that work for only some people or whatever. And you know what, John? You're telling me like the Biden is running the show. It's his administration. Bottom line, it's his administration. The puppeteers there are running whatever they want, and they're forcing you to do whether you like it or not. Look, for those of you who didn't see what happened over the weekend, look, famous football player Aaron Rodgers, for those of you who don't know, said he was immunized. He didn't say he was vaccinated. He knows the policy of the National Football League. The NFL put into policy, like, if you're not going to get vaccinated for whatever reason, then you need to wear a mask on the sidelines after the game and so on and so forth. And he refused. And he BS'd his way through it. He got caught. To me, what the problem I have is that's his choice. He should have followed the policies that put forward by the NFL, his employer, to protect them, and blah, blah, blah. I got that. But the way he's being ripped apart right now is that he's a liar. He's an anti-vaxxer. And like, this is where we're all confused. Okay, guys? This isn't about pro-vax or anti-vax. What
exactly.
it is enough with the political science, enough with the politics, enough with trying to get voted back in again. You make a system where you're forcing people, then force everybody, not part of the people.
I listen, you got people coming to this country en masse. You're forced to wear a mask on a plane. There are people being arrested and thrown off airplanes because of the FAA rule. You're being forced to show a negative PCR test upon returning to this country. But
No,
you
actually,
can
you don't
come
need a
in through
negative. You don't actually, you don't need a PCR test. You can have an antigen, a rapid test. That's
well,
fine.
it
Coming to
depends
Canada,
on where you come from in the United States.
you're right. But I'm telling
They
you, from
prefer.
Canada, I want you to know from Canada to the United States, I could get any test, but to come back, I need a PCR test that's going to cost me $250, $300. But
No, I
to me,
got a guy that'll do it for 150 for you,
the
24
system
hours.
is this. Yeah, U.S. The system is bullshit. The systems are bullshit. They're nowhere near made for any sensibility. It's kind of like, what's the wind swing today?
Do you
Okay,
remember the movie David Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman?
I know the movie. I never saw it.
You never saw it. Well, you know where they
I'm
show
not a
like
movie guy.
to give something to Jonathan's note, 450,000 illegals that'll come across the border next month. If that number is right or wrong,
No.
the,
He's talking about the collecting of 450. That's the Biden settlement that he's trying to do,
yeah,
which we
well,
talked about in the
there's
previous
hundreds
rant.
of thousands, there's millions of people coming through. If you have one person that has the virus, it starts this big bubble and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. At the end of the day, I got to tell you, this administration, what's for thee and not for me. I
Well, it's
think
always
every
like
member of
that.
Congress, every member of the House, if they want to force the American public and want to vote for it, they need to have it or they need to
Well,
resign.
I'm going to tell you something. The federal government here in Canada has forced everybody that sits in Parliament, if you're going to come and sit in Parliament, then you need to be vaxxed.
You
If
can't
you
be a
don't,
member of parliament and vote on this without being vaxxed. I mean,
no,
you know what?
no, no,
If
no,
they,
no, no. You could do it from Zoom. You're allowed to do it virtual, but you can't get there. Look, I'm just telling you that these are all about political games. This has got nothing to do with your
hey,
health and
I got
safety.
I got a good joke for you. Talking about Jonathan, you know, there's a restaurant in Sunny Isles that got broken into, and I'm going to tell you, the crook was such a good guy. He wore a mask and he wore gloves.
But I'll tell you, this is great. But to me, the issue that I have with this whole game, it's simple. Okay, if you're going to go ahead and force pay again companies to do the government's work, you should pay the companies.
Yep.
The second part is, you're right. Every federal employee sitting in Congress or sitting in or in the Senate and their aides and everybody should all be vaxxed
Yep.
and go through a weekly test. Like, you know what? You can't just do this to the companies. You can't tell a company that has 100 employees that's barely making ends meet, okay? Oh, yeah, by the way, you're going to spend more money.
Hey,
Again,
what about the labor costs that have just gone up?
well, that's what I'm
50 to
saying.
100% in some
Look,
cases.
Biden's administration learned from the Obama administration. Put the onus on the companies. Federal government doesn't have to pay for it now. Big mistake, okay? The Biden administration, and I know Biden may not be running the show here, but OSHA and all the
Did he
rest of that are
remember?
following.
Does he remember?
Wow. The thing is that these administrations continue to show that they could care less. And you know what? When I hear these liberal pundits from The View, from the news medias, all that kind of stuff, when it's consistently bitching about the fact that it's the anti-vaxxers that are the problem, and they continue to push this narrative. At the end of the day, it's the anti-vaxxers are reacting to a philosophy and a government's authoritarian attitude.
David, I want to ask every anti-vaxxer, and I know there's a few that will listen to our show and that are very anti-vax. Did they get the measles, the mumps?
Stuart, it's irrelevant.
all of
Stuart,
those vaccinations?
it's not about that. Stuart, it's not about that. It's not about that. To me, it's like this. If you're telling everybody that they have to, then you have to create a system where everybody gets it and it's done in some way. But what's happened here is that you are shaming, you are insulting, you are
Scarlet's
demeaning
Yep.
people only because you're not on my side. If you're not on my side, You're on the other side. You're against me. So when it comes up to this whole attitude, and we should wrap it up right over here, that this whole thing with companies and all that kind of stuff is really simple, Stuart. It's about divisiveness. It continues to be about dividing Americans.
That's a dictatorial socialist
That's what they're
Marxist
trying to
theory.
do. They're trying to
Yeah.
do that again. So if you were really trying to unify the country, then there's a way to do it. This is continuing to break everybody up and splitting everybody up. And you know what, Stuart? We're done. We're done. We've reached our quarter hour. Ladies and gentlemen, guess what? We'll see you again on Wednesday. We'll rant again on Wednesday. We'll rant again on Friday. We'll rant again next week. Join us, guys, please. Hey, if you have the chance, by the way, share us on Facebook. Share us with your friends. Tell them about our downloading a podcast. We're everywhere, folks. So on that note, Stuart, say goodbye.